Are we good? All right. I think my mic's working. My video looks like it's working. Just making sure I don't have any technical issues here. But okay, everybody, welcome to episode number 3 of my very own replay and talk show series. Today we're going to be going over Zerg versus Protoss. Probably one of the matchups that most Protoss hate, but to be honest, a lot of Protoss players, Zerg players actually struggle with this matchup as well. And I think it's one of the matchups that require the most amount of like intuition, being able to change strategies on the fly, and all these things. So, okay, today I'm just gonna be solo casting. So last week we had Jaeyun, and that was a blast. Like just having him as like a guest and just bringing some Terran expertise, answering some questions, and also just kind of having more of like a talk show type element to this where, we could ask each other about like the history of Starcraft or the metagame and stuff. So I kind of like that a little more, but again, I'm just kind of still trying to do, different kinds of things to see the direction I want to take this whole thing in the first place. So today, again, we're going to go over ZVP. Our agenda is going to be going over the basics of 5-hatch Hydra play. Okay, so I think if you are a Zerg player at any level, you must learn 5-hatch Hydra. Okay, it is one of the most flexible, one of the most standard, the most aggressive, and can be also one of the most defensive builds that you can actually do in Zerg versus Protoss. So it's such a great build, and I think if you can execute this, to be honest, I think if you can execute a good 5-hatch Hydra build, you'll be crushing Protoss up to 1900 MMR. And as you start to learn some of the details and nuances, you'll start to even crush like 2000, 2100 Protoss. So again, that's why I chose this build to go study. I know there's a lot of other Zerg versus Protoss builds out there like 3-hatch Hydra, 6-hatch Turtle, you know what I mean? Like, those are all completely valid builds, but today we're just going to focus on 5-hatch Hydra, just talking about all the details, all the nuances. We're going to look at a replay that I literally just got like 10 minutes ago from Lumire. Thank you for saving me. Otherwise, we would have been watching a crappy replay from me or something. But this is going to be Larva versus Jae-hoon on Blue Storm. And then right after that, we're going to go straight into viewer submitted replay. So I think I actually have 6 or even maybe 7 replays that people submitted, and definitely appreciate you guys submitting everything. I won't be able to get through all of them because I do have to cut right at 6, which is 2 hours from now for me. But we'll get to as many as we can, and then afterwards I do have some pre-submitted questions about Zerg versus Protoss, and also towards the end you can also ask me some questions and I can kind of answer, whether it's about Zerg versus Protoss, about Starcraft, or about life or anything else. So alright, so without further ado, I'm going to change my, this overlay, and go straight into 5-hatch Hydra. Alright, I think we can see it, so I'll just get right into it. Again, this is going to be a pretty epic ZVP from Larva against Jaehoon, so I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Larva is. Jaehoon, he's an old school pro. He also continues to be a pro. He's also a very good player as well. I think he changed his name to Bermuda recently. So if you watch the recent KSL, you probably know him as Bermuda. Okay, so this map is on Blue Storm. Obviously, watching somebody like Larva is always a treat. So let's also just turn off the vision for Protoss. This is what I've been doing for all my other episodes, just because let's just look at it straight from the Zerg perspective. Let's pick up all of the nuances. Now, I'm not Larva, right? I don't know everything Larva's thinking. Larva probably thinks on a different dimension than me. He probably knows a million things more than I do about Zerg vs. Protoss. But I'm going to try to break down some of the basics of what he's thinking and what he's doing and why he's doing it, okay? So I'm going to go on 2x. We've got Blue Storm. This is a one-on-one map, if you guys don't know. So the play is also going to change a little bit based off, whether it's a one-on-one or a 4-player map. But here, I think generally, Larva almost always goes in overpull. And overpull is basically the standard build, right? You usually don't want to be going for like a hatchery first build here, especially because like the probe can first of all block you. If you get hit by Zealots, I mean, like, they're right there, and, it's going to be tougher to pull off, especially on Blue Storm, where the distances are just really, really short. So we see an overpull here, no drone scout, hatchery coming down, and 1 pair of lings, which is good. Does he build more? Okay, so he's just gonna build 1 ling. So let's just pause here for a second. So maybe you as a Zerg player are just kind of curious, how many lings am I supposed to build after I go for an overpull, right? So the reason why Larva is not building any more lings is because, first of all, if he scouts like any sort of crazy, you know, proxy gate play or anything like that, he's obviously going to build more lings, right? But right now, he's kind of just making it preemptively, because right now, Jae-hoon doesn't know if this is 6 lings or 2 lings, right? So Jae-hoon also needs to make a decision. Okay, do I make my cannon first? Do I make 2 cannons? Do I make a nexus? How greedy can I be, right? So in this situation, you kind of have to capitalize on the fact that your opponent doesn't know exactly what you're making, okay? So right here, we only see 2 lings, so Larva intends on just kind of poking this probe away with 2 lings, minimal amount of pressure, and going maximum economy, if that makes sense, okay? So remember, Larva could have gotten 6 lings here and also pressured Jae-hoon, and Jae-hoon would have been forced to respond, okay? So let's continue the game. So again, Larva's just continuing to make some more drones here. And again, you see the drone gas timing at about 232. You guys catch that? 232 is a very crucial gas timing. Simply because if you get your gas too late, then you're going to get pummeled by Corsairs, okay? Just keep that in mind. If you get your gas closer to like 250 or 3 minutes, you know, like for all of you lower level Zergs out there that are like kind of watching this, look at one of your replays and look at the clock and see exactly when you get your gas, right? I think a couple weeks ago we talked about ZVT, where I think you can get away with your gas at like 245 to 255, and because you know you can adjust for it, right? But against Protoss, you're playing against these Corsairs that they can kill your overlords, they can lock you, and if you don't have Scourge in time, you get in a lot of trouble. So I really urge you guys to make your gas between 230 and 240. And I would even just say, just make it at 230. Be earlier than later here, okay? So Larva goes ahead and scouts. Okay, well, we see a cannon, we see a nexus, everything is right. So this is not a gateway opening, right? Obviously, if this was gateway opening, first of all, Larva would have seen a Zealot by now with his Overlord, so he didn't see the Zealot, so he doesn't need to make any more lings, right? So right now, he's using the Overpull to kind of threaten maybe a ling run by, but it looks like Jaehoon is definitely going to have this cannon in time, and he's going to go ahead and probably take his 3rd base right here. So he's getting the scout off on everything he needs. Oh, I do not like this wall by Jaehoon here. Oh god, jeez, that's disgusting. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's got a plan, but this is very vulnerable to kind of like a run by, to be honest, unless he built like a cyber core right there. But I don't know. Who knows? He's a pro. So Larva's gonna go ahead and make a 3rd base. Usually some Zergs like to take it close. And again, if you want to go 5-hatch Hydra, you want to take the 3rd hatchery at the close base. However, on a map like Blue Storm, it's a little bit different just because it's not really that far, and you get the advantage of extra minerals, and you also get some gas there too, right? So usually if you're going 5-hatch Hydra, you want to get the close 3rd, but Blue Storm, he gets the far 3rd, and I think it's acceptable because, again, it's not that far from his base, right? Considering where he rally points and keeps all of his units, this is definitely not bad at all. So, okay, so let's continue. Larva goes straight for a lair with the first 100 gas, right? He's probably going to get ling speed when he can as well. And he's going to continue to make a whole bunch of drones. And again, he doesn't need to make any more lings right now, right? Because he's just trying to chase down this probe. The gateway right now probably barely finished. Oops. Right, barely finished. And then the Zealot is on the way, right? So until the Zealot is out, which in this scenario, it's going to be more like 415. It's going to get your base at like 430-ish, 435, 445. You do not need to make any more Zerglings, right? So at this point, it's always wise to be massing drones. And then, you know, in about 30 seconds, I imagine Larva's probably going to, you know, pop out a few more lings, just so he doesn't get counterattacked by a Zealot here. So from here, what we also want to do is to make sure that we know exactly what the Protoss is up to, okay? We see a Zealot coming, right? And watch. Lo and behold, Larva's making 4 more lings, right? It's going to have 6 lings. So again, you usually want at least 3 lings per Zealot, if that makes sense. That's kind of just like an average rule. Like, if you don't screw up your micro, you should be able to kill a Zealot with 3 lings. And this Overlord is going to come back home. So one thing that was a little bit curious that Larva, let's see, let me actually pull back a little bit. Because what's important to know is when is the Protoss going to get their +1 forge, okay? Because if they get their +1 forge at about 4 minutes to like 4:15, that means they're probably going in for a really fast Zealot push, okay? If they get their +1 closer to 4:45, 4:50, that means they're probably going for a 1-1 timing. The 1-1 timing is when they get Corsairs and Zealots and they move out at 7:30. If they get the +1 timing earlier, then they're going to move out closer to maybe like 6:30. So I'm surprised that Larva didn't keep his Overlord there. Maybe there was another tell that Larva had to know exactly what was going on. I don't think he actually can spot it from here. And I actually think he moves his Overlord away faster. So I'm not sure. Maybe Larva's going to go ahead and scout to see what's going on later. But at this time, I guess he's just moving back home. And again, you know, there's probably things that Larva knows that I don't. But at the same time, usually you want to keep your Overlord outside to catch when they make their forge. Okay. So here we do have the what's it called? The layer out. This is probably gonna make way for him to get a spire as soon as possible, right? And he's continuing to make drones, right? Drone, spire, right? You want to make your spire really fast. And now he's gonna go ahead and maybe scout with these sixlings, okay? Maybe see, okay, there's a Zealot over there. Really good by Larva to not even have a drone there. So you want to use these lings, and every Zealot you pick off is huge, okay? Because if you whittle down their Zealot count right now, that's one less Zealot that they're going to have at that 7:30 timing, okay? And with speedlings, you know, you absolutely crush these Zealots. So really good micro by Larva, loses nothing, and picks those two off. So one of the things that I actually don't like about this game, and I'm not criticizing Larva, but at the same time, you usually want to have an Overlord scouting this area, okay? The reason why, or maybe not an Overlord, but even like a Zergling, because one of the most annoying things that a Protoss could do is sneak a Zealot out and leave it in a corner, and then just run to your mineral line when you're not looking, or when your lings are out of position, right? And that actually can be very fatal, because if you lose a drone, that's actually a big deal. You can deny mining time and stuff, so I think it's okay on a map like Blue Storm because it's so small, right? And I think Larva figures, well, if he hides a Zealot, then, you know, with these, you know, 8 lings, he can probably go find it, right? So that's probably what Larva's thinking. He's going to go ahead, move forward with this 5-hatch Hydra play, okay? So what he's doing with these Overlords, and guys, you guys really need to be disciplined with your Overlords, okay? Bring them back home, okay? So bring your Overlords back home right here, right here. Don't leave your Overlords just hanging out wherever, okay? So let's see what Larva's going to scout here, and let's see exactly what he's going to say. Okay, so he sees a +1 Cybernetics core, right? So this automatically tells you that this Protoss is going for a mass Corsair build, right? We don't know exactly how many. We don't know if this is 2 Stargates. We don't know if this is a Templar Archives or a mass Speedlot build, but let's continue to just watch very carefully to gather as much information as we can, okay? But so far, we know, because of the Cyber Core, he's going for a lot of Corsairs, okay? First Corsair out, right? Spire's about to finish. So again, he's trying to get as much information as he can with these lings. Maybe he can pick off a probe here and there. Second photon cannon on the way, which is actually a big deal. And so Larva is gonna have the spire out. So quick little tip here, okay? If you have your spire done, and then the Corsair hits your base, and then you start making a Scourge, you will catch that Corsair if it's right next to you, okay? So this is maybe more for like a Protoss tip. If you scout the spire, it's not done yet, then you can kill, and you hit down the Overlord, you will kill the Overlord before the Scourge gets you, okay? So I don't know if Jae-hoon even scouted, but here he's going to successfully kill this Overlord because the Spire just finished, right? So if you start hitting the Overlord before the Spire finishes, let me go back. I think this is an important tip for you to know. Let's wait for that Corsair to pop out. Okay, moves in. Corsair's out. Okay, watch. Corsair's moving. Let's follow the Corsair. Comes here. Usually, Protoss should be scouting your base first. Okay, boom. So, Corsair's hitting the Overlord, right? Spire is like 99% done. Corsair is going to get away with this kill and be able to run away, okay? If the Spire was already done 5 seconds ago, and then if the Scourge was already popping out here, the Scourge will pop out in time to kill the Corsair, okay? That's assuming you make the Scourge right next to where the Corsair is, okay? So kind of like a good handy, little tip for you to kind of like use. I mean, you see Larva kind of like move some of his Overlords away, kind of in weird position so that it takes, it might take the Corsair like 2 or 3 more seconds for them to, actually find you. So he's gonna lose one. That's okay. Losing one Overlord is okay. If you lose 2 Overlords, that's not okay. Ideally, you want to lose 0, of course. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, losing an Overlord is a big deal. So he's gonna go in for his 5-hatch Hydra play, right? So he was droning up like crazy. You know, he's got, let's say, 8 drones there, 9 drones here, 9 drones here. So got very healthy saturation. He's getting his 5 hatcheries. He's going to get his Evo chamber, Hydra den, and then a second gas simultaneously, okay? So that's the build. This is just straight, you can go look this up on Wikipedia, Team Liquid, or whatever. This is just bread and butter, 5-hatch, you know, Hydra build order, okay? So you guys should all know this. You guys should all kind of write this down. At this point, I would probably try to, like, consolidate all my Overlords so that he doesn't, like, you know, pick off any stray Overlords, so you know exactly where all your Overlords are. You see how he's just kind of camping both fronts to make sure no Zealots pop out? Because sometimes Protoss likes to move out with like 5 Zealots here, and then if you get caught off guard, that can be very dangerous. So let's continue with this build. The Scourge, now he already makes 4 Scourge because he knows this is a Corsair build, right? And that's because of this Cybernetics core right there. We see the Forge spinning, but that doesn't tell us very much, because at this point, they should definitely be spinning, right? So we're going to use the Scourge to scout, okay, what is the Protoss doing, okay? We don't really know what the Protoss is actually doing yet, to be very honest with you. With the scouting information, we don't know, unless Larva is assuming things. So, boom. We see 1 gateway, so we don't see like 5 gateways, right? So we're not in trouble for like a super fast Zealot push, okay? Let's continue to scout. Let's continue to see what we can get on this read with these Scourge. Corsairs are still building, right? I'm thinking this is probably more of like a Dark Templar build. So really good reaction by Larva, picking off these Zealots again. This is gonna be 4 Zealots. Jae-hoon loses, right? And losing 4 Zealots is a big deal. Okay, so this is a huge win, right? Because at this point, what is Larva thinking? Because Jae-hoon lost 4 Zealots for nothing. There's only 2 gateways, right? So there's no way in hell that Jae-hoon is gonna have enough Zealots to break you at all, right? But he is gonna have this Dark Templar, right? So what Larva needs to be careful about is not making Sunkens for a speed Zealot push, but because he sees the low number of gateways and then these 3 Zealots being wasted here, he knows the only way that Jae-hoon can do damage is by 2 things, okay? It's by Corsairs, or it's by this Dark Templar that you see here, right? I kind of suspected that it was Dark Templar, because usually if Protoss wants to go for a 730 Zealot, speed Zealot timing, they usually try to conserve their Zealots. They don't throw them out. You know how Jaehoon just threw away 4 Zealots? Like, you're not supposed to do that if you want to go for a timing, because usually at 730 you might have 6 to 7 Zealots, right? And so if you lose your 6 to 7 Zealots already before you even push, then you don't have much of a push at all. So Larva only needs to block off this Hydra, which he's doing very well. You see how he's just blocked. He knew, right? Again, this is where you need to be in Zerg vs Protoss. You need to be able to read your opponent and know exactly what they're doing and block it before they even try to do anything, right? I bet you Larva's not going to make any sunken colonies. Just because, you know, there's no threat, right? And so maybe we can pause and, like, maybe as an exercise, we can kind of just guess what the Protoss has, okay? So let me take a guess, okay? I watched this replay, but I watched it in literally 3 minutes, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know anything. I'm just gonna guess based off of my intuition, right? And you guys should actually try this too. You guys should try, just pause your replay and just kind of guess what your opponent has and see if you're right, okay? Let's see here. 2 cannons. He probably has 1 cannon there. That's probably it. I don't think he has any more cannons because he has Corsairs. So I'm gonna guess he has about 5 Corsairs. Maybe his 5th is building. Maybe his 5 Corsairs are already out and 6 Corsairs building. I think he's got 2, maybe he's got 2 High Templars with Storm already upgrading. I think maybe he's probably going to put down 4 more additional gateways soon. I don't think that's going to be out yet though. That's probably a little too soon. I'm sorry. So maybe he has another gateway or so, and probably has like 3 zealots or something. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. 1 zealot, 5 corsairs, 1 high templar, another 1 building. Okay, so it's a little bit too early. So he doesn't have the 5 gateways yet, and we're only at 7:30, right? So I guess that makes sense. He wouldn't have the extra gateways. I think he's gonna start putting down 4 more gateways in about a minute. But look, there's no threat at all, right? It's like you should, like, I know a lot of Zergs like building sunken colonies, but 5-hatch Hydra is super strong on the offensive and defense, right? You seldom need sunken colonies when you go 5-hatch Hydra, unless they're going for like some crazy all-in zealot push, okay? Especially if you're fighting corsairs, you should not be using sunken colonies, okay? The pressure is on them to defend against 5-hatch Hydra, not for you to defend against Protoss, okay? Because 5-hatch Hydra is an aggressive build, okay? So let's continue to move on. So Larva knows all of this, okay? He sees the Dark Templar. He knows because he went a fast Templar, Jae-hoon doesn't really have much to attack with, right? So you can actually do a few things here. You can actually, you know, he gets this hatchery right here instead of at the expansion, just because I think he wants to play a little bit safer in terms of macro, but he also doesn't have Overlord speed for him to take a 4th base really fast. So right now, assuming Larva wanted to, I think Larva could take a 4th base right now. You like taking your 4th base at about 8 minutes is a very, very good economic play, but it does open you up to getting busted a little bit more, right? So in this case, it might be a little bit of a risk because we're on a map where you can Protoss can attack you from 3 different angles, maybe more like 4 different angles, right? So because if he takes this base, that might be a little bit too risky. Larva figures, okay, I'll take my 4th base later. Usually you want to make sure you get your 4th base, you know, around 8, 9, 10 minutes, but you don't want to get it past 10 minutes, okay? So over here we see Hydra's on the way. Larva's playing a little bit passive just because he knows there's Dark Templars out, and you can't really move out until your Overlord speed is done, and you don't want to get hit by some sort of stupid Dark Templar attack. Because right now what Jaehoon can do is move out with a few Zealots, Dark Templar, and Corsairs. So I think Larva figures, I'm going to play a little bit defensive and, you know, kind of just, you know, get my drone saturation going. So we see a little bit of harass here from Jaehoon with six Corsairs. Now, 6 Corsairs will shoot down Scourge like nothing, okay? So be careful about sending Scourge to 6 Corsairs unless you're catching them from behind. So we see some good harass coming out of Jaehoon here, picking off an Overlord here and there. He's probably going to want to kind of build up his army a little bit with Speed Zealots and High Templar, and probably try to take a 3rd soon. So he loses 1 there. Okay, so this is super crucial, okay? So because Larva's playing very defensive, he's able to catch these Corsairs, right? So a lot of times the Zerg, you can also... Oh, look at that beautiful play from Jaehoon, right? Because he kind of picks off a single Overlord, he kind of picks off some more drones behind, even if Larva's in a defensive stance. You can, as a Zerg, be moving out and pressuring the Zerg Protoss right now to force cannons, but Larva opted to not do that and play more defensive. So let's see here. Jaehoon loses 2 Corsairs, right? So he's left with 5. I think he had 6 or 7. Maybe he only lost 1, but I thought he lost 2 Corsairs. Just note that not all Protoss keep replenishing their Sayers, so that if your Sayer count starts to whittle down, that's a beautiful time for you to go Mutas, okay? So Larva's trying to decide, okay, do I want to go Mutas, Mass Hydra Muta this game, or do I want to go Lurkers? The fact that I see him kind of massing up like this kind of tells me this is more of a giant Hydra Muta play than like a crazy macro play, okay? So let's continue the game. So Larva realizes Cape Boy did about 11 kills, a lot of damage there. So Larva obviously needs to rebuild his drones. His entire economy got reset by this. Gonna be able to pick off this Dark Templar though. And so we see Larva is actually gonna make some more Scourge. He's trying to defend against these 5 Corsairs. I think he also sees that this is not more Corsairs. And again, like if you can pick off a lot of Corsairs here, then you can actually switch it to Mutas, right? So Larva's going to start to move out. I think he's just trying to find as many, you know, Corsairs as he can. We see a whole bunch of drones being remade, and that also slows down his 4th base timing. So I think he would have ideally wanted to get more bases. So again, I think we lost another Corsair, and it looks like it's kind of on critical damage here. So I think, so here's what Larva's gonna do. He's gonna switch it to mutas, right? And he's gonna play a huge Hydra muta, right? So right here, let's pause again. What is Larva thinking, right? He did a lot of damage to me. He lost a few Corsairs by trying to, you know, damage me. So instead of going for a big lurker play and just kind of turtling up on 4 bases, Larva is going to try to go for a giant push at the 3rd base down here because, first of all, it's a very favorable positions, right? Because you have uphill advantage, right? And this is a very wide open space for Hydras to be doing a lot of damage, right? But if consider this though, if we had a map where it's really hard for Hydras to bust a 3rd base, then I don't think Larva would be going for this aggressive, huge Hydra bust here, okay? So I think what Jaehoon has is probably a 3rd base. I'm going to assume he's got about 4 High Templar and like 12 Zealots. Let's see. More like 14, 4 High Templar. And now he's going to start gearing up, making a whole bunch more gateways. I think he's probably going to move up to 8 gateways soon after he takes this 3rd base. And this is looking like very standard PvZ to me. Like, you know, he's got his robotics done at 10 minutes. Corsair count is not growing, right? So this is going to be the danger part for Protoss. So let's continue to watch this game. So Larva's moving out for a big attack to deny the 3rd base. Okay, that's the name of the game. You got to deny the 3rd base. Make sure you know what you're doing. And so here, the Scourge is going to scout. Okay, there's no Archon, right? So now the Muta's going to pop in here and just kill all of these so easily. And all the Corsairs fall like nothing. And now Larva can just move in and just get a good attack on these Zealots. But I think Jaehoon might have too many Zealots here. So, I mean, I like the idea that Larva had. So, the whole point of this attack was to deny this 3rd base. And I think eventually he does because he does have 5 mutas. But Jaehoon was able to just kind of block all of this just with straight Zealots. And usually that would not be possible if Larva didn't get like 11 of his drones killed over here. But I like the attempt, and because he picked off all the High Templars, that really makes Protoss push really weak, okay? So again, we see Larva taking his 4th base right here. It's a little late, but it's late because he lost 11 drones. So keep that in mind. So this 4th base, you really want it, you know, before 10 minutes. Hopefully under 9, and if you're very aggressive, you can get it under 8. And so Larva's going to move out. He's going to do, I don't know if he's going to actually deny this, but he does pick off a couple of High Templars there. He's going to regroup, and he's going to try to continue to apply pressure and make sure he doesn't die from the Zealot push over here. And I think he should be okay, right? He's making a lot of units to make sure he doesn't die. And once he's safe, I think he's probably going to try to go... oh, okay, so he's going to rebuild mutas, which is really good. So if you rebuild mutas, it's really hard for... Protoss to deal with that. So you see how he's just sniping all the High Templar? So here's the thing, if you snipe all the High Templar, Hydras in general will get a lot of a lot of damage done. Okay, so that's why you can actually just sacrifice these mutas and just mass Hydras, because you don't even need lurkers if you can you know, hold on, let me do this. Okay, yeah, you don't even need lurkers if you can just completely destroy the High Templars. And again, this is not fully representative, I guess. You know, my bad if this isn't like completely, you know, representative of every ZVP, because the Muta switch is kind of like the thing these days, right? Mutas are super duper strong. Protoss cannot ignore the Mutas because it's very potent. And you see how he's not even going any lurkers because he's killed like 6 High Templars so far, right? Oh, he picks up another one, 7 High Templar, right? So in this case, Zerg at this point needs to be scared of a huge push with Dragoons, okay? But because Jaehoon lost so many of his High Templars, his push power becomes so much weaker. Also, Larva, generally a Zerg, you want to pick 2 paths, right? I mean, you can go crazy and just like mass Zerg, you know, Hydras, you know, but that's really risky. You either need to tech to mutas, or you need to tech to a lurker. I just hit myself in the head. Oh my gosh. Usually in another game you can have lurkers planted here, okay? and then you kind of just defend. You go straight into hive tech. But you see Larva's playing this a little bit, you know, alternatively, where he's gonna go Hydras and Mutas. Okay, so it's Lurker, Ling, Hydra, or it's Hydra and Muta. Got it? Because Hydra and Muta is very strong against Protoss because you're killing off the High Templar. If you don't have the Mutas, then you need the Lurkers to buffer against the Protoss army, okay? So I don't know if we're going to actually finish this replay, just because I feel like from this point on, it's really just about watching battles instead of talking about theory. But really, for Zerg, you want to be saturated on 4 bases by the time they get to you with their 2-0 timing, okay? Because Protoss will move out at about this 12-minute, you know, mark, and then they'll try to bust you and just kill you. I'm sure every Zerg player knows that Protoss can just move out with a lot of Dragoons, High Templars, Zealots, and then you just die. And that's probably one of the biggest struggles that most Zergs have. So with that, I'm actually just going to cut the replay here. Because, again, the late game battle, it's just kind of like, you know, it's not super theoretical, and obviously these guys are pros and stuff. So, oh, I guess people want to watch it 4x. Okay, that's fine. So we'll just watch it on 4x. And I'll answer some questions here. So Little Trouble asked, if he didn't pick off any of the Sayers, do you think he would have stuck to Lurkers? Oh, absolutely, right? Absolutely. Because the thing is, you can go for a lot of Mutas to kind of like overpower the Corsairs, but that's a specific build. You need to have a lot of units to do that, right? You need to have a lot of Mutas. You need to be able to like get a whole crap load of you know, gas and all that stuff. So if you don't do any damage to the Corsairs, then he would have just stuck to Lurkers and you would have stayed right there, right? So in that case, you know, it's a very different scenario. So that's why Zerg always has to ask, you know, did I do enough damage here? You know what I mean? Like, did I, you know, can I do the Muta switch or not, right? The Muta switch is more of a reactive thing, unless you're going for like a Muta build, okay? So GG, Jae-hoon loses, Larva just completely outplays and outmacros him there. So again, Mutas, super potent, but you don't always go Mutas, right? Because if the Corsairs were stayed alive, then you don't want to go Mutas, because in 5-hatch Hydra, you usually don't have +1 Carapace on your air, right? You see he doesn't have any Flyer Carapace, but if you go for a 6-hatch Turtle, you get +1 Carapace, okay? So that's why you don't want to go Mutas unless it's a response to what's happened in the game, if that makes sense, okay? So again, hope that made sense. Again, I know it takes so much skill to like pull off Mutas. It's not easy to control Mutas, but it's always good to know the theory by which, you know, when you should go Mutas, right? I don't think you should just blindly make Mutas. I think you should just do it kind of intelligently and with intuition, okay? So, I have another question here. It says, if you go Lurkers, can you still be aggressive, or do you got to be defensive? You generally want to be defensive, okay? Generally, you know, there's like these little pressure points, okay? For Zerg versus Protoss, at around 6:30 to 7:30, that's usually when Protoss moves out for like their Zealot / Corsair push. Okay, or whatever, right? They have an opportunity to do some harass damage. Maybe they send out a really fast Dark Templar, but Zerg, if you go 5-hatch Hydra, you now have the pressure from 7:30 to maybe 8:30, right? 7:30 to 8:30, you can also attack the Protoss and be, you know, aggressive and try to bust them there with Mass Hydra. And, you know, or you can force up a lot of cannons. But once Protoss starts to make 12 to 16 Zealots, once they get 4 High Templar, that's when Zerg needs to go run back home. Be like, oh, okay, I don't want to fight you, right? Generally, you don't want to fight against 2-base Protoss massing. You want to pressure them with your Hydras, drone up, get Lurkers, and then be defensive with Lurkers. Now, you can maybe send a Lurker to deny their 3rd base or do something cute, but you have to be careful about the push that comes at 12 minutes, okay? If you do not block the push at 12 minutes, you die. So everything about the whole build is for you to defend the push at 12 minutes, whether that's with Mutas, whether that's with Lurkers, but you do not want to be fighting a Protoss head-on from like that, you know, I call it like no man's land, like 9:30 to 11:30. You want to be on the defensive over there, okay? Okay, so let's move on to some viewer submitted replays. Hope you guys found that useful. I'm actually gonna go on multiplayer just because I remember there was some issues if I watch a replay on single player. I remember somebody told me that. And okay, so let's go see what we got here. So I got 5 replays. I think I have 7, but that's what's it called? Some people submitted more replays, but I'm only gonna do 1 replay per person unless I have time. Okay, so this replay is from Quad, also one of my former students. He is a 1300 MMR Zerg and he plays this game on Eddie. And he asks, or his question to this game is, I had lots of games, lost to 2-gate rushes, even being able to defend the initial rush. I either lose to Zealots early, or Protoss expands behind this and kills me with better economy. I invest too much resources early with Lings and Sunkens. What are the key elements to properly defend a 2-gate push from Protoss without hurting your economy too much? Should you adjust your response if it's proxy gates in the middle, in-base gates, or gates at the natural? Very good question. Okay, so he's basically asking, how do I deal with Gag Protoss, right? So we got Quad, the 1300 MMR Zerg asking the question at the top left against this Gag Protoss at the top right, probably going for a 2-gate, I assume. So usually, I think playing against 1-base Protoss can be a little bit harder for newer players, just because, oh, I think this might block the gas here. But anyways, it might be harder because, you know, you're so used to Forge Fast Expand that you might not be aware of what 2-base play really looks like. So from here, let me turn off the vision for Protoss and let's see what's going on here. So Quad is going for a very standard overpull opening. I love the hatchery. You got some spawning pool coming in. And it's really hard to scout a 1-base on a really big map like this. So we see, let's see, 1 pair of Lings being made, which is completely fine. That's exactly what Larva did, right? Until you see something otherwise, right? So his drone has to scout to see what's going on. So okay, boom. All right, let's pause here. So this is actually good because he was able to scout this 2-gate pretty fast, right? Because if Protoss was at bottom right and you know, we scout this 2-gate very late, then we might be in some trouble. Although I guess diagonal positions, you know, it takes a lot longer for Zealots to run by. But here, what you want to do is, first of all, you want to make a 3-base in-base. So first of all, I'll probably make a hatchery right here. And so my strategy from right at this point is thinking, okay, I want to fend off the 2-gate push. Okay, I scouted it, right? So I definitely should be able to block it, right? Because if you can just make one sunken colony and maybe 6 to 8 Lings, you should be able to block this 2-gate push, right? Unless they keep making a whole bunch of Zealots, right? Because you need to see how are they going to respond to Zealots, right? Are they just massing 2-gate Zealot and just trying to bust you, or are they going to expand? What are they doing, right? Because you have the Overlord and you can scout everything they're doing, okay? What I would like to do, and there's a lot of different ways you can play this, is go for 3-hatch Muta, okay? Because 3-hatch Muta is very strong against 1-base Protoss because they don't have gas. Their Corsairs are going to be weak, right? Mutas give you map control, and then you can drone up, take another base, and then you can also just go mass Hydra, or you can basically do anything. So from here, you have to think to yourself, okay, I'm going to try to defend this push with 1 sunken colony, maybe about 8 Lings, okay? So let's see what happens. So right here, I would also keep the Overlord by the gas to make sure that he's not teching up to a gas, because it's important to know if he's massing Zealots, fast Cybercore, or fast expansion, okay? So from here, I would still maybe mine some gas, but yeah, you definitely want a sunken colony. Only 1 is fine though. You don't need 2 sunken colonies. If it's against a double 9-gate, then maybe you need some sunken. Oh god, this probe is nasty. Okay, so here, this is I think there was a mistake made because I think he definitely should have had more Lings at this point in time. And so usually you want to fight, you know, at least 3 Zerglings per Zealot. So again, you want at least 9 to 10 Lings before you fight this. But with the probe there, you probably want something closer to like 11 or 12. So here, you might be taking a little bit too much damage because I feel like you should have had more lings right when you scouted this. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Buying some time, I like it. Okay, well, no, I lose it to Sun Colony. So you definitely want to build one more Sun Colony. So again, what I don't like about this is that you want to make sure that you're doing something in between. Like, I feel like all of Zerg's eggs are in the basket of defending, right? This is not a 2-gate proxy, right? 2-gate proxy is like, if they fail the rush, they're probably dead. 2-gate in base, you want to at least mine gas. You want to make a third hatchery. You want to do one of those things, because right now we're floating 551 minerals. So right now, we don't have tech. We don't have a third hatchery. We don't have drones. We don't have a sun call. We have nothing, right? So I think the idea is, because maybe Quad was just kind of panicking a little bit too much. I think in this scenario, first of all, you should not panic, right? Because if you respawn correctly, 2-gate is going to do nothing. Even if they're, you know, even if they're really good, like 2-gate should do nothing. It's just a matter of how you respond, okay? So here, we don't have gas, right? We don't have another hatchery. So there's another hatchery, but the tech is really late. So if the tech is super late, then it's going to be hard to go for Hydra. And I think the other critical error here is that we don't have an Overlord scouting what they're doing, right? Because they can go for an expansion. They could go for gas. They can, you know, who knows? They can be having a Corsair building right now, or like a Stargate or something, right? So you have to keep the Overlord in the Protoss base and know what they're doing. So let's take a look. Okay. So it's just expanding straight up. Probably gonna put down a fort or something. So because you need to know if they're making a lot more zealots or not. So let's just continue here. Again, so we took a lot of damage, unfortunately, and yeah, I think this is GG. And this is because we didn't know if we needed more defenses or not, right? So I'm gonna pull back, and I'm not gonna watch the rest replay because I think the mistake was made earlier here. So against 2-gate, you have to keep the Overlord in their base. One sunken, about 8 lings is good, but if they keep making zealots, you probably should put down a second sunken colony. And you also want to be making gas to get a lair, right? Because mutas can take a Protoss off guard. So again here, we have no idea what he's doing. Because if he keeps making zealots, then you need to make 2 sunken colonies. Or you need to have a really good SimCity. If he expands really fast, you can stay with 1 sunken colony. So again, I think the theme that I'm seeing with a lot of lower level players is the problem of vision, right? Because you have no idea what they're doing. So I think a lot of people, you know, struggle with what to do because you don't know what they're doing, right? So I think right here, you're kind of just playing in the dark. So again, keep the Overlord in the base. If they keep making zealots, make 2 sunken colonies. If they keep making zealots, make 3 sunken colonies. But you want to make just enough defenses to block exactly what they're doing while we go straight into tech. All right. So Quad, I hope that answers your question. I'm not going to watch the rest of the replay because I think that's, you know, I think from that point, it's kind of like the mistake was made earlier. So again, just vision, make sure you tech, and just make sure you make just enough defenses as you see what they're doing. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next replay. By the way, if you guys want to support these events, you can go to that Matcherino link. If you've never supported with any of the coupon codes, you can use any ZVT, TVZ, or ZVP to donate 50 cents free of charge on behalf of Matcherino. So if you guys do that, I'll definitely appreciate the support, and it will help me to keep going. All right. So we have another question here. Isn't it risky to maintain the Overlord on the enemy base because of turrets? Well, they don't have turrets, right? You know. They don't have any anti-air because they make a cannon. You just move the Overlord away. If they're making a Dragoon, well, you want to see if they have gas and a cybernetics core, right? So like once you see the gas and cybernetics core, then you can move away, right? But then you already know they're going for a gas instead of an expansion, right? So you want to keep the Overlord in the base until you scout what they're doing. So the priority is not to defend with lings, not making a sunken colony, not anything else. The priority, like, just stop everything you're doing. Just take your hands off the keyboard and mouse and just take 3 seconds and go to the enemy base and look at what they're doing. Overlord, okay? I'd rather you look at what they're doing than you doing anything back at home. 0 APM, okay? Just 1 click at the opponent base. That 1 click to look at what they're doing is worth 500 actions per minute, okay? I would rather be a 10 APM player knowing what my opponent is doing than being a 5,000 APM player playing in the dark, okay? So I'm just going to emphasize that so much, okay? So much, okay? All right, so let's go to the next game. This one is from Ad Hoc. Looks like we got a game on Circuit Breakers. Ad Hoc-ish is a 1850 Zerg. And he writes, tried to find a good recent CVP, but I haven't had any on ladder. This is a game I played a while ago for CPL. I don't remember exactly what happens, but I know it goes late. If you can point out any inaccuracies in mid-game decision making, that would be helpful. I feel as if I'm not sure exactly when I need to be backing off with my Hydras and defending with lurkers at natural and third. Since this game, I've gone straight to defilers after hive, but I don't think I do it this game, and I rely on the ultra crutch. Okay, so in general here, what we're doing is just kind of looking to see where we can kind of improve the efficiencies of what Ad Hoc is doing. Okay. So not really a general question, but I think more of just like a mid-game efficiency type question. So let me just kind of see what build he's going for. He's a very good player. 1850, that's a very good Starcraft player. Okay, so one quick tip, I see an overpool. I would actually send the second Overlord, and I think this might be preferential, but I would send the second Overlord diagonally, okay? So let me open up the map here. I would move this Overlord diagonally on Circuit Breakers right here, and then start moving, south. Reason why? Because vision is everything, right? You want to have the Overlord out here to see if and when there's Zealots coming, right? Because if there's a proxy gateway, Zealots going to be on their way. You want to know exactly when the Zealots are coming and from which direction, okay? So if you move the Overlord straight west from this direction, then you don't get any information at all until you actually get to their base. Does that make sense? Because you're not going to scout anything on this bottom line here. So really, this Overlord going west is also just kind of gaining not much of anything. So that's why I think it's really important to kind of do these more detailed things. And the reason why I talk about these details is because, again, Ad Hoc is a 1850 player. So if you're 1850 MMR, then I think in general, you should be focusing more on these little details that'll add up over time. I think if you're like a 1300 player, then I wouldn't really care about this Overlord scouting. So again, we see one Zealot, one Ling being made, which is good. Okay, we see the gas time about 238-ish, so that's pretty good, right? I prefer it to be a little bit closer to 230, but that's not bad at all. Let's see where Ad Hoc wants to take a third base. So again, he wants to go for a far third. So far third bases, this means that you want to go for a very turtle type strategy, okay? Turtle type strategy, right? Because if you want to go for that aggressive 5-hatch Hydra, you want to make your hatchery kind of right there. So again, we're going to watch it in 4x. I'm not going to go through every single detail just because I got to get through a lot of replays, but let's just kind of fast forward to the mid game. Everything looks pretty good. I see a Spire on the way, lots of drones. I think I see Ling Speed on the way as well, so doing really well. Scouting, Stargate. Another thing, again, to be picky is taking off the vision. You want to have an Overlord or a Zergling right here, okay? Why? Because who knows if Protoss can send 3 Zealots, yada, 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 yeah, like this, and all the way around, and all of a sudden 3 Zealots show up at your base, and you have no idea where they came, right? Every Zerg against Protoss knows how annoying it is to have a Zealot show up at your base and not know. So please, what I'm trying to say is be disciplined with having an Overlord or a Zergling outside the Protoss base at all times, okay? Obviously, you want to move your Overlord away so it doesn't die to a Corsair, but in that case, the Ling should be outside, okay? You don't want these Zealots to kind of walk to your base and you not know, okay? So again, let's continue. We see the Spire on the way. The build looks really good for Ad Hoc so far. Oh, we get some Lings in, which is really nice. Get some good scouting information, but doesn't really do too much damage, which is fine. Okay, picks off a Corsair, which is really good, I think. Well, I don't know if he kills it. So from here, okay, so what's the build here? So I think the build is a little confused, actually. Again, the 4 base I mean, the far base, you usually want to get 6 hatcheries before a Hydra den. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's actually the build. If you wanted to go for a fast Hydra build like this, then you want to get 5 hatcheries first, and then go for the Hydras, right? So, hold on, sorry, I got a little message from Kix. I didn't set it on Team Liquid. Really? Oh. Whoops. I'll do that next time. Thanks for letting me know, Kix. Anyways. So, again, I think that one of the fundamental issues here is that the build looks kind of funny, right? This isn't even 5 hatch Hydra, this is 4 hatch Hydra, right? Like, I think you need to be getting that 5th macro hatchery in order for your macro engine to really kick in. And also, I wouldn't be going aggressive with Hydras in this build because you have a far base. Because usually the far base, it's harder for you to reinforce and gather your units, especially against things like speed zealots, okay? So the 5th hatchery comes down a little bit after, which is okay, I guess. But I guess this Hydras come a little bit faster. So you can do some damage here. Take some damage. Okay, that's good. So right here, you want to decide whether or not you want to go all in Hydras or you want to back off and macro up, okay? So especially if you're going a lot of Hydras fast, you don't want a sunken colony. Just X the sunken colony from your build, okay? No sunken colony at all. Because like I said, 5 hatch Hydra, in this case, you know, you want 4 hatch Hydra. That's even more aggressive, right? So no sunken colony. So here, what this build is telling me is that you want to bust him and kill him right now. Because you're massing Hydras, right? Because in this situation, when you have about 10 Hydras and you bust the front, you've already forced 5 cannons, right? 5 cannons have been forced. He's panicking. This would be a very excellent time to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 drones, right? Imagine if you made drones. Imagine if you made your fourth base right now. As he spends all of his money making a whole bunch of cannons, right? Beautiful opportunity because Protoss does not know what Zerg is doing, right? Because Protoss is like, oh shoot, I gotta make sure I don't die here. They're not gonna move out. They're not moving out here, right? Because they're scared, right? You have to capitalize on the fact that Protoss is scared. So again, I think to optimize better, I would have stopped making these Hydras because making about 12 to 15-ish, you know, 17, whatever, is good enough. Especially, you know, especially if he doesn't have mass Corsairs, because you know your overlords are probably gonna be pretty safe. So let's continue to move here. I would love to see a whole bunch of drones. Again, I don't think you're gonna bust all in here because he has High Templar and even more cannons. Look at that. Okay, so from here, I would love to see. Okay, I see even more. Okay, so this is a little all-in-ish almost because, well, I guess it's kind of funny because you're kind of making drones, kind of making Hydras. I think you should kind of stick to cycles. Like, okay, right now I'm only gonna make Hydras. I'm only gonna make drones, right? So a lot of Corsairs actually being made. So you want to make sure your overlords are kept safe. So you want to keep some Hydras back at home because then a Corsair counterattack would actually be very, very fatal. So again, these overlords are in danger because you want to keep them right at home. Usually you want to put your spore colony closer to the front so that you can also use them against like observers and stuff. So from here, this is going to be a little bit dangerous. I wonder if we have, okay, lurker aspects on the way. At about 11:49 to 12ish, you want to have maybe at least 100 supply, okay? You know, if you're at 120 supply, you're doing great. If you're greater than 120 supply, then you must be a pro. But right now we have 75 supply. Protoss is moving out with High Templar and Dragoons, and this is a very dangerous situation, okay? Very, very, very dangerous situation. So from here, you want to go into a more of a turtle position, and you also want to try to deny the third base as much as possible. But from here out, I'll just put up a crap ton of sunken colonies because right now, because we spent so much money making Hydras and we didn't do anything with them, we don't have money, right? Because like I said, if you made drones when I told you to make drones, you would have at least 100 supply easily. So from here, this is going to get a little bit dangerous if he moves out, unless his micro is messed up. So again, I would not be okay. Well, I like the Hydra pickoff. I mean the High Templar pickoff, but I would not be out here. This is like no man's land. You don't want to be fighting Protoss at this time, okay? So again, I would love to play more defensive here. I mean, I guess, you know, the macro was able to kind of recover a little bit. So I'm, you know, decent positioning, but I would love to go for more of a hive type play, because I feel like what this positioning kind of tells you is like, hey, I want to fight, right? And right now, technically you can, but, you know, a very good Protoss would be maxed out by now, right? And so what I would do is just have these links kind of run around and just like deny the third base as much as you can, and then go straight into hive, which is what I see. And right now, I would love to see more of a defensive game. I would love to see the lurker, Hydra, and you want to have like at least 2 or 3 more macro hatcheries as well. Okay, probably triple Evo chamber. So I think we have 2 Evo chambers, but we want triple Evo chamber. I think we'd also want to get faster ranged weapons as well. So let's continue the replay. Again, I don't like this positioning because Hydras are not going to do very much against a maxed out Protoss army. So I would not be out here. I don't love this attack. Yeah, you don't want to be attacked. Okay, yeah, you see this? Like, I didn't watch the replay, but like, you don't want to be attacking. Okay, unless you're, you know, like a crazy macro Zerg. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you don't ever want to walk into a Protoss, right? You want to make the Protoss attack you, right? Because as they're attacking you, sometimes the pressure's on them to make good storms and all these things. So here, if they're on the defensive, you just run into storms, you eat everything, and you kind of just get crushed. So I don't like this attack. You should be defending until you get hive tech. You want to make at least three more macro hatcheries there as well. I'd love to see some more lurkers and kind of more in a defensive stance. I think this, I'm not loving this base here. It's kind of gambly because if they catch it, then it just dies. I prefer to make a base right here and then control this entire area, right? Because it's easier for Zerg to kind of defend with lurker fields around this area than trying to defend this area, okay? Especially because it has 2 ramps. It's just not a good safe location. But I love the Defiler mount. I would love to also see... Oh, drone saturation looks pretty good. I would love to see even some more drones, though. At this point... Well, it's not bad, actually. Yeah, not bad. So again, at this point, it's going to be a little bit tough to guard all of this. Just because you don't have really sunken colonies. But let's see if you can defend it. Oh, nice lurker field, though. I guess he moved his zealots really fast. So this is a very dangerous position here. I wonder if he even survived this. Ouch. Oh, this might be GG. Okay, so I guess he doesn't die here. Okay, anyways. So again, I just want to answer the questions so that we can get out to all the replays, but I'm not going to watch the rest of the replay because I think the purpose of the replay and the question already kind of ends at this point. So again, let me just kind of recap there, right? When Protoss moves out, again, I've been talking about this 2-0 timing that comes at about 12 minutes where Protoss has, 4 to 6 High Templar, 12 to 20 Dragoons, 12, 15 Zealots, something like that. So let's look at the Protoss, right? They've got, again, this Protoss might have, could have a little bit more here, but he spent a lot of money on cannons. So this becomes very scary. And again, you want to really shoot for like at least 100 supply for Zerg, right? And the reason why we're not there is because of this moment right here. And this is the most critical moment in Zerg versus Protoss, okay? When you're forcing cannons with 5-hatch Hydra or whatever build you're doing that's Hydra aggressive, you need to ask yourself, like, you gotta be like a boxer that's like feinting, right? Like you wanna feint your opponent into thinking you're going all in, but then you're in reality you kind of just pull back. And then you just mass drones, right? Because he's making so many Hydras here. Again, this could have been 12 drones. Imagine if he had 12 more drones than he had right now, and a 4th base started already, right? Protoss can't attack right now, right? So it's like there's no reason for why we can't drone right now, so that when we fast forward to the 12-minute mark, we'll have 100 supply. So it's all about the cycles here, right? So again, let's fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. 12 minutes, boom, pause. Okay, this third base should have already been up. We would have already had more drones everywhere. We would also maybe have like 2 more macro hatcheries or something, or maybe even going to hive tech or something, or we would have had something, right? But because we massed Hydras and we didn't kill him, that hurt us a lot. Okay, that really, really hurt us, because especially when you see the Protoss making like 5 cannons, let alone 7, you want to stop making Hydras, right? Because the damage is already done. Don't do any damage. Like, let them hit themselves. Let them damage themselves so that you can kind of get back. You want to come back more into defensive play until you have hive tech, and then you just move out and you roll them. So, hope that helped, Ad Hoc. Again, if you guys have any questions throughout this, I will definitely try to answer. I'll definitely do a Q&A session at the end as well. So, really good replay. Don't know if you win it, but at the same time, well played nonetheless. Alright, so let's go on to the next replay that we got from Plissken. Let's go ahead and, what? Oh no, come on, Blizzard. I keep getting logged out. I mean, I think it's a little better than before, because I used to get logged out like 90% of the time, but now it's more like occasional. But anyways, let's go into the next replay. Hope you guys are enjoying the episode so far. Okay, so we got Jake ZVP. Can you do yours yet? Okay, I can actually do what's it called? Sheep. He's leaving. He's also one of my students, longtime student that I've had. So let's do a Sheep ZVP. I don't know which one this is actually, because you sent me 2. I think this is one that said somehow he had so many zealots. Don't know what I did wrong, but it was an epic comeback though. Okay, so let's just. I don't know if there's a real question here. I think it's just about optimizing and making sure that we know what we're doing. So this is from Sheep. He is the White Zerg, aka Y's old enemy. I think he's about a 1700 MR, 1800 MR Zerg, so pretty good Zerg player against this Protoss here. Alright, so let's just fast forward. Again, I'm going to turn off the vision for the Protoss, and I'm going to watch the Zerg solely. I want to see what builds, what Zerg's going to be doing here. So again, we won't watch the whole replay, but we'll just kind of watch at the critical moments, okay? So make a close third base. Okay, so close third base likely means that we want to be going for a, you know, more of an aggressive play. You don't have to, but I'm saying it's more likely. I think the gas timing was a little late. Let's check the gas time. Let me go back. Gas time, we want to be disciplined at like 243-ish. So I like, really, I mean, it's not bad, but I would prefer, again, to maybe get this 10 seconds earlier. Pick off the pylon. I mean, this pylon is not a good deal for Protoss. So Zerg is actually ahead here. Now, we're kind of playing with fire because we don't know what our opponent's doing yet. But we can assume that's a cannon expand, right? Because obviously this guy's doing a lot of stuff. Looks like we're going straight into a lair build. There we scout him going for a forge fast expand with 2 cannons, which is fine. Let's go ahead and continue to see what the build is. Oh, what the hell is this? Okay, alright, I don't know. Kind of a gag game already, but let's make sure that we don't die. Okay, so this Zealot popped out of nowhere. This is what I was talking about. The reason why you want to have Overlord right in front and make sure you don't catch all of this. I would also position a second Overlord maybe right here so you can see this happening. Because again, this does a lot of damage. Okay. So kill that. Make sure you don't die to any more Lings. I mean Zealots. So I think there's Ling speed here. Looks like we're going into 5 hatch Hydra. So I think the build is okay. I would prefer to get 5 hatches before the Hydra Den instead of before the 5th hatchery, if that makes sense. So picking off some Hydras. I mean, so things are looking pretty good. I mean, the build for the most part looks good. So we got the second gas coming. I'd like to see an Evo chamber. Hold on, so let's see. Yeah, so I guess the build is a little funny because I would love to see the Evo chamber because that +1 range is actually very important. So the Evo Chamber's a little bit late with this build, but it's not horribly off, especially given that this Protoss, like, I bet this guy's really behind. I bet you he doesn't even have a Corsair. Maybe has like 2 gateways. Let's see what this got. Oh, okay, he's going straight mass speeds a lot. Okay, so this is kind of a gaggy build. I mean, again, you really want to have the Scourge to see exactly what they're doing. Okay, so we see the Scourge. Let's go ahead and scout to see what's going on. Boom. Okay, right here. So what you should immediately do in this situation is play defensive. Okay, come back home. Bring your Hydras back home against 3 additional 4 gateways, right? Because remember that Larva game that we saw in Blue Storm? When Larva scouted with his first Scourges, he saw only 2 gateways, right? Do you guys remember that? Like, he saw 2 gateways instead of 4. So when you see 4 gateways in a Citadel like this means it's going to be a huge Zealot push. So you want to go back home. You want to maybe even put down a Sunken Colony. Unless you have a really good Sim City. Like, if you hide Hydras and Lings right here and then, like, block off with, like, a Evo Chamber and, like, I don't know, do some crazy Sim City, you don't need a Sunken. But I would prefer maybe getting a Sunken against a mass speed lot rush. And you can also just go straight Mutas. They have no anti-air. Look at this. No anti-air at all. He's literally got nothing. So if you just went Mutas here, you went back home, got a Sunken Colony, maybe 2 here, something like that, defend, and then just make 5 to 7 Mutas, this guy is dead. Okay? So that's the correct response. So I think this is a mistake staying out here because you scouted 4 gateways, but you're still on the offensive, right? When you scout 4 gateways, you should be on the defensive immediately because the Zealots are going to roll right through the army, right? But if you're in a defensive position with the Sim City where the Zealots cannot get a very good surround on you, then you're going to be able to defend against the Zealot push, right? So I imagine we're going to see some Zealots move out. Boom. So he has a whole crap ton of Zealots, right? That's because he doesn't even have a second gas, right? Like, he's massing Zealots because this is an all-in build, okay? So because he's going all in, you know, it's all about just defending, making sure you don't die. So again, that's a lot of Zealots. The SimCity was pretty good, but getting a lot of damage from here. So we do see some Mutas. I like the Muta response. But I would love to see this a little bit faster, to be honest. So a lot of Zealots coming in here, doing a lot of damage, unfortunately. So right here, I would be remaking... oh, okay. Here's a mistake. When they're going for kind of like this base trade scenario, not base trade, but when they just like sacrifice all their units for nothing and just killing drones, you should be making drones, okay? You should literally make 20 more drones from this point because they have no more army. They have nothing. You have air control, you have map control, you have everything. So I would make 20 drones right now, and I would take my 4th base right now too, okay? So because you've effectively destroyed their entire army. So, I think the Mutas can play a little more... Oh, yeah. I think you gotta be careful about the Zealot. Yeah, the Zealot should not be doing this much damage, unfortunately. And that's just, you know, that's just kind of due to positioning and stuff. And I think the recovery is a little bit slow. And it looks like we lost a lot of units. And this is actually looking really bad for us. Get some lurkers out. Again, you need to drone up. You need to at least get like 50 to 80 drones. Especially at this time. But it looks like we're kind of pushing in here somehow. I don't even know how this is happening. Guess he doesn't have like observers and stuff, so... Yeah, this is a crazy comeback. So, I mean, from this point on, I'm going to cut it right here because... I mean, somehow he made it work with this lurker push. That was pretty epic. But usually, it's hard to kind of get this thing done. But in general... when you see so many gateways so fast with your Scourge, you want to pull back home and you want to play defensive. And always go Mutas if they don't have a Stargate. Or you can just go straight into Lurkers too. But I would highly, highly recommend that you do a Muta build against no Stargate. I mean, it's so powerful. Alright, let's go to Jake, ZVP, Jake Plissken. Let's see what's going on here. Alright. So Jake Plissken is a 1450 Zerg. He's the yellow Zerg at the bottom right here. This is a CPL match. Guys, if you don't know what CPL is and you're a lower level player, you should be joining CPL. Okay, it's called the Coach Pupil League. If somebody in chat wants to pull up a Team Liquid link, that would be very helpful. Basically, it's a league where pupils get assigned to teams, and teams get coaches, and you get free coaching and really good community all overall. So really good initiative. So, okay, Jake asks, probably 70% of my ZVPs look like this. In the phase following the first speed sellout attack, I build lots of drones and hatches to prepare for 3 base, macro, and a 4th. Not only does Protoss build 11 gates and kill me, he also gets his 3rd base up when theoretically he should only be able to get away with one or the other. My money is far lower than his the whole time. I feel like I have very little map presence in this transitionary period. My army is small even though I have good drone count and macro, and I could die at any time. Where am I going wrong? Got it. Okay, so this seems like more of an efficiency problem in the mid game. Again, this is probably going to be a very hard skill to learn, but I think once it starts to click, once you start learning the macro cycles for a Zerg, this is going to be make so much more sense. It's going to be so much more helpful. Okay, so we see an overpull here. Probably not going to be a gateway expand. I'd love to see the gas a little bit earlier, right? Because we did talk about this gas. So let's just zoom in on it. When are we getting the gas? And I'm zooming in for a purpose. Okay, boom, 302. I'm zooming in because, Jake, if you're watching, I just don't want you to ever forget this, right? This should be closer to 240, and if they go for a Corsair, we're going to lose maybe 2 Overlords here if they have their timings correctly. So I think making sure you don't get rolled by Corsairs is probably number 1 in terms of efficiency. So we do see a 3rd base coming down. Everything else looks pretty fine. Forge, fast expand overall. So this is looking pretty good so far. We don't need to make that many more Zerglings because obviously he doesn't even have a gateway. So let's keep looking at this build. 3 drones on gas, I like it. Overlord, massing drone. So again, let's see what build we're going for. So I assume we're going for 5-hatch Hydra if we go for this close 3rd. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so here we have a different build here, right? We put down a Hydra den while our lair is barely starting. No, actually, we put down the Hydra den before that. Hold on. Let's check this out. When do we get the Hydra den? Okay. So did we kill the probe? Okay, so we killed the probe. Okay, so this isn't a 5-hatch Hydra. This is a 3-hatch Hydra bust, right? Or a fake, okay? So from here already, we're playing from behind, okay? Because unless we do critical damage with the Hydras, we're playing from behind here because we should not be getting a Hydra den if we're going 5-hatch Hydra. So the thing that concerns me a little bit about this build is that we're going for a Hydra den and we're going for a lair, right? Usually you want to just go for a Hydra den and then pressure and then force out cannons, or you can go all in. But what I don't... okay, so here's another issue. So you never want to build a creep colony. Under 0 circumstances do you want to build a creep colony unless he's not going for an expansion, okay? Unless he's going all in. You want to fend this off with just straight lings, right? Because he only has 1 Zealot. There's no need for these creep colony. So don't ever get the creep colony, just get lings. And I feel like, again, this build is already a little bit weird because usually, even if you go for a lair, okay, 973 into 3-hatch Muta. Okay, I see. Usually, even if you're going 973, you want to get your lair a little bit later because you don't have the money to support all that. But, okay, let's see what we can get done here. So we see the Hydras. Maybe we force out a lot of defenses here. So it looks like we don't really commit to this. So let's see. Oh, he doesn't even make another... Wow, what a greedy guy, dude. He sees the Hydra den, but he doesn't even make a cannon? Okay, this is very greedy. Protoss should be making at least 2 cannons, because you could have massed Hydra and you would have just won, to be honest. So the problem is, basically you're playing from like 400 minerals and like 200 gas behind, because you basically got a Hydra den, got Hydra speed. You didn't really pressure much of anything, and so Protoss doesn't even make another cannon, which again is super greedy, and that's not your fault. That's kind of Protoss' mistake there. And so from here, we're in a very bad position. So that's already kind of established because we haven't done too much damage here. We don't really know what he's doing yet, right? He can be going for like fast speed lot rush, or he can be going for Corsairs, but it looks like he's moving out. Oh, yes, Corsairs. Okay, so now we're forced to build a lot of sunken colonies. Okay, so I think the sunken colonies is... Again, I think I'm not loving the sunken colonies because if you're going for Hydras, the pressure is on the Protoss, right? The Protoss is the one that's scared of you, right? Whenever you make a sunken colony, you're saying, hey, I'm scared of you, right? Like if your opponent is making cannons, they're saying, I'm scared of Zerg. Here you're telling me you're scared of Protoss, where right now, let's check what they have. 4 Zealots, 6 Zealots, right? 6 Zealots, which is kind of standard. Moving out for a push here. Yeah, I guess in this scenario you can make like 1 sunken, but 3 sunkens is an overkill. Because that's we've already lost 5 drones here, unfortunately. So let's see, Protoss move out. So he has 6 Zealots, right? If you had 1 sunken and you had like 7 Hydras, that would have defended this just fine, right? As long as you clog the holes a little bit and have some good SimCity. And so from here, what we want to do is defend and then counter push so that he makes more cannons. Because this is getting away with murder, man. Like, he cannot just be making 1 cannon. You have to force him to make 3 or 4 cannons. So here, I would love to see a counter push with mass Hydras, because this is when you get, this is when Zerg is very powerful. So they move back home. Okay, so let's read this here. Okay, so move back home. I think the problem is we haven't made Protoss make any more cannons, so Protoss is just massing like crazy. Also, Protoss has a lot because they only went 1 Corsair, so if you went for 9 mutas here, then he would be completely crushed, right? And this guy has... Holy crap, he has 10 gateways, and you're not supposed to have 10 gateways right now. So this guy is going more for like an abnormally crazy macro push. So he's going to have a lot more than he should, to be very honest. And so here, especially, you have to punish the fact that he doesn't have more Corsairs. So going mutas like we saw in that Larva game. And I think the drone saturation could be a lot better, right? We need at least 20 more drones. At least 20 more drones. Okay, so 7... 10 here, so like 20 more drones than what we have. And then definitely want to go straight into lurkers, and you want to get +1 ranged instead of carapace. So from here, yeah, you want to start turtling. Yeah, I think... I guess lurker aspect's almost done. Protoss is gonna move out about like 12 minutes here. It's gonna be very dangerous. Tie 2x. What do you want to get +1 ranged? Just because we have a lot of Hydras and lurkers at this stage of the game, so we want to have +1. Wait, hold on. Yeah, you want to have +1 first. Ranged, because then your Hydras do maximum, DPS. Your lurkers also do additional spine damage. The +1 armor is not going to help against +2 weapons, which is what they're going to have at this time. So I think you really want to have lurkers set up here. You want to be in a defensive stance. You also want 4 bases, especially if you're going for a hive. You really want 4 bases. A 3-base hive ZVP is going to be very tough to play, and it looks like Protoss is just going for the bus and kind of kill you here. So. Overall, I mean, I think it was well played. I think this is a little bit of a gaggy game, just because he has 10 gateways. He doesn't really have... His probe saturation is okay, at least. But 10 gateways, yeah, Protoss probably has like a little too many gateways. And I think the build was messed up because you went Hydra and then you went Lair, right? Because then right then there you're already kind of like playing from behind. Remember how I said the other game, you want to have at least 100 supply at this time. So let's see. So this is a really good exercise for all Zergs out there. Go to your replays in ZVP. Go to 12 minutes, roughly, and ask yourself, what's your supply? 71, right? So 71 means that something went wrong earlier, right? That's not because the Protoss had damage. I think a lot of times you're underestimating the value and threat of Hydras at that 7:30 to 8:30 mark, and by getting too many sunken colonies rather than forcing the Protoss to play defensive. I think that's the critical error. And you definitely want to get a fourth base before 10 minutes as well. So Jake asks, I felt like I was macroing well because I was making many drones, but they all went to hatchling colonies. Is teching to hive there too risky? Yeah, hive tech is fine, but I think you want to at least try to secure 4 bases. I mean, if you can't get your 4th base, then like, yeah, I guess you would go hive. But I think you had a window where you could have just like macroed more and went 4 base and then defend with lurkers. So I think in general, you know, it's really just about the efficiency there, to be honest. Okay, so we're gonna go into our last replay, and then I'll also take some more questions. I have some pre-submitted questions, and you guys can also ask additional questions on top of the ones you're doing right now. So let's go ahead and watch this one. I think this is on Eddie. And Yixi also asked, what should it be at? I think you want to have at least 100, okay? Like, it depends. Like, obviously a pro, you want to have more. I mean, it depends on what happens in the game, but yeah, shoot for 100 supply, right? Watch all of your replays and ask yourself, okay, if I don't have 100 supply there, what happened? You probably don't have enough drones. You probably don't have enough hatcheries. You probably don't have a 4th base, right? You're probably making Hydras when you shouldn't be making Hydras, right? Because you at a certain point you have to recognize, okay, why am I making Hydras? Like, you know, are you like, I know that sounds stupid, but it's like, are you making Hydras to not die, or are you making Hydras to pressure them? Like, you have to ask yourself, why am I making these units, okay? And usually when you make Hydras, you know, they are defensive, but at the same time, you also want to pressure them, make sure the Protoss doesn't get away with murder like that game. So that guy, Jake, that guy you played was getting away with murder, and that's why he seemed so strong. So if you actually punished him with the right timings and the right build, then he would not have looked like that at all. Okay. Mr. Easy Pat says, I'm pretty bad, but I find that massing Hydras is really hard for lower level Toss to deal with in general. Very, very true. Very, very, very true, right? I'm not saying mass Hydras, but I'm saying the power of mass Hydras, and like Hydras are just such a threat to Protoss, like at a lower and a pro level, that like every Protoss has nightmares of dying to Hydras there. So I think just doing your best job to optimize when to make the Hydras. If your Hydra to push, force them back home, make drones, okay? Unless you're just massing Hydras just to kill them. Now you can do that too. You can just mass Hydras and kill them, but I wouldn't recommend doing that just because, you know, I kind of like playing the long game. So just make Hydras, make a few, make them run back, force them back home, make them make 3-4 cannons. And since they waste the 600 minerals on cannons when you're not actually going all in, you can go ahead and make 9-12 drones back at home, take your 4th base, and then you can have 100 supply at 12 minutes. Okay, so let's go to this game here. This is from June, who is a 1350 to 1400 Zerg. Says, this is a recent ZVP that I managed to lose, even though I think I'm in a pretty okay spot, at least superficially. I lose a series of fights around 15 minutes that pretty much cost me the game, and wondering what I needed to have done better. Couple things that I noticed: late hive, so lack of Nidus and Defiler, bad upgrades, very poor angle and timing of engagement. Okay, yeah, those are all pretty standard things. So it looks like, I think from here we went for an overpull, if I caught that correctly. We have a close 3rd base. I don't love close 3rd base on Eddie, but it's fine. Close 3rd base probably means we should be going for a 5-hatch Hydra build, unless you're going for 3-hatch Hydra, which is viable too. This Protoss is going for a very fast Nexus. So this is actually bad for Zerg, because Protoss got away with the Nexus first before the cannon. And Zerg didn't do anything to punish it. So, I mean, you couldn't have known that. That's okay. It's just I'm just stating the facts. Like, this is not a good situation for Zerg. Let's also scout to see, not scout, or just look to see when did the Zerg make gas, okay? Because, again, I'm going to hammer it into your guys' heads. 2:47. So about at least 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds late. So again, I think we're seeing a trend, right? I think we're seeing a trend of like, you know, the Zergs in these replays getting their gas a little too late. So let's count. Let's slow down here. Okay, so we have a third base coming down. Let's fast forward a little bit. Go over to layer timing, which is fine. We see some lings here. Again, I don't want to be too strict on some of the details just because we're at a lower level, so I want to focus on concept. You really want to get that. Oh, there's a spire. Okay, spires right there. Drones, drones, drones. At this point, I'd maybe go up to 6 lings with ling speed. I hope we have ling speed right now, just because if you start to counterattack, you know, that is good to note. Also, what you want to do is scout to see when they make their Protoss +1 forge. So here we see the forge isn't even spinning. We're at 5 minutes, which tells me this is not going to be a zealot push. Okay, this is not going to be a 6:30 zealot push unless this guy is just being really stupid. But if he starts making his, you know, +1 closer to like 4:45 to 5 minutes ish, then they might go for a zealot push at 7:30. Okay. So there's 3 different tiers of pushes, right? There's a 6:30 zealot timing that requires you to make the forge +1 at about 4 to 4:10. There's a 7:30 zealot timing with Corsairs, or just a regular zealot timing that requires you to make your +1 at about 4:45, 5 minutes. If he doesn't have a +1 by now, his build is just either screwed up or he's going for a Templar build. Okay, this most likely tells me he's going Corsairs because he doesn't have that many zealots. He doesn't have an upgrade going. So again, I'm just reading the build. What is Zerg thinking based off the information I'm given? I have not watched this replay. I'm gonna guess this guy's going Corsairs, Templars. No like 4-gate speed zealot. Okay, so let's continue to build the replay. Drones, drones. I love drones. Let's go up to at least 35 supply. Make 5 hatcheries. I'm loving everything I see so far. I would also, okay, so the +1 starts now. A little late, but I think this is Templar. I would start moving the Overlord back home, and then keep the Lings in front of the base to scout. Because Overlord, you don't want to be too close to the Protoss base because you give them a free Overlord. So we see the Scourge. Okay, Corsair's popping out. Because this is a big map, I think we're okay. And also, I don't think he capitalized on his tech very fast. So we got Corsairs on the way. 5 hatches going down. So I'm loving this build, man. This guy's looking good. This guy's looking good. Oh, very good. Picks off a Corsair. So we got second gas. Hydra. Overlord speed should be on the way. Oh, I'm loving everything I see so far. I love the Zerg. Right now, I would start making Hydras. So for 5-patch Hydra, I would start making my Hydras closer to maybe 36 supply, but that's not a rule. You can still get up to 39 supply here, and then you can also start making Hydras. I think there's a little too many Zerglings. Oh, okay, so now we see 2 Stargate. Okay. So this is also another strategy they could have gone. I thought it was going to go 1 Stargate. 1 Stargate Corsair. I thought it was going to go for Dark Templars, but instead he went for 2 Stargates. So this is also another build that's little less common. Probably you see this maybe 10% of games that you play. So as long as you scout it, you can just learn how to deal with it. Okay, so from here, babysit your Hydras, make a whole bunch of drones here. Okay, now it's gonna be tough to take a 4th base. I think you gotta take your 4th base over here, but make sure all of your Overlords are in one spot. Bring them all home. Bring them all here. Bring them all here. Babysit them with a whole bunch of Hydras. I'd also maybe make 1 Spore Colony at each base against double Stargate, just because, you know, they're just gonna be just rampaging everything that you have. Okay, so 2 Stargates. He made an extra cannon there, so he made a lot of cannons. So actually puts him behind a little bit. I don't see any gateways. Maybe he's got a couple. There it is, starting gateway production. So right now what he wants to do is he wants to kill off Overlords. If you deny any Overlords, then, or Overlord kills, then you're way ahead. See, against 2 Stargate Corsair, again, you gotta bring these Overlords back home. Even against 1 Stargate Corsair, you have to bring all of your Overlords in one position. Literally put your Overlords right here. Literally put your Overlords right here. Babysit every single Overlord, because every single Overlord you lose might be crucial and you might die. And from here, I would also put down another hatchery. And from here, I think you just kind of play defensive. I don't like... I guess you can actually play very aggressive with Hydra Bust, but you can also just go straight into Lurker, take a 4th base, and just go into Hive Tech. But let's see what the Zerg opts to do. Again, you see, we're losing Overlords because we're not consolidating, right? I would try to keep, I would try to spread out these lings a little bit more. You want to see exactly when they get their 3rd base. So we're making Hydras again. So we got to ask ourselves, okay, why are we making Hydras, right? And that's, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying if you're making a lot of Hydras here, then you ask yourself, okay, am I making Hydras to not die, or am I making Hydras to kill them, or am I making Hydras to pressure them, right? Always ask yourself those 3 questions. If you're making a lot of units instead of drones, ask yourself, am I making units to not die? Am I making units to kill them? Am I making units to pressure them? There's only three options. If you're doing none of those, then there's no, like, then that's a problem, right? So here, I don't know exactly what he's doing. I think you can be aggressive with Hydras and try to bust them because they have, you know, so little gateway units. But I would be very sad if the Zerg is making Hydras to not die, because they went 2 Stargate Corsair. He probably has nothing. He has 3 Zealots, right? You could eat 3 Zealots alive in your sleep, okay? Like, you should not be making any defenses against 2 Stargate Corsair, just because they don't have gas, they can't make High Templar, they hardly have any Zealots, like, you know, everything can go wrong. So here, if you're making Hydras, you better be killing them. Okay, so if we make Hydras and we're not moving out to kill them, then we're in trouble. See a lot of Corsairs. Corsairs really didn't do that much damage, so I think Zerg is actually in a very dominating position, to be honest. Yeah, loses an Overlord. I think loses like 3 Overlords so far. Okay, maybe moving out. I would love to see some more vision to see exactly what we're up against. Like, maybe like put a Ling outside the base and run one inside their main, because we don't know what's going on. I'm not loving this attack right now, because if you moved out before, let's say, let's rewind. Again, you know, we have all these Hydras, right? This is the most important part in Zerg versus Protoss, okay? Everybody listen up. At this point at 8:30, are you making Hydras or are you making drones? Okay? If you're making Hydras, you better be attacking, because he has nothing, right? You can force him back. You don't even have to attack. Just bust down the front, and then he'll make 5 cannons or something like that, right? And then if he makes more cannons, remember, each cannon is the cost of a gateway. If they don't have a gateway, then they don't have a macro, then they get screwed up, they get scared, blah blah blah. Everything happens in your favor. So here you really should be attacking, but if you're not attacking, what do? You make drones, okay? I mean, I guess I understand maybe you should make like a few more Hydras, like a few more just to not die to double Stargate Corsair, but imagine if we had 15 drones instead of 15 Hydras, okay? Just think about that. Plug that into your brain right now. If we had 15 more drones instead of Hydras, what would the game look like, okay? Let's speed this game up. Go back to where we were. So from here, right now is the time to be aggressive with Hydras, but if you miss that timing window, you want to stay back home and play defensive with Lurkers. So what I don't like is the move out right here, right? We're moving out with Hydras. If you're trying to get map control, that's okay. Oh, pick off all the Corsairs. This is a beautiful time to make mutas, by the way. But okay, see this push right here. Not loving it. If this Hydra push came, 1 minute earlier or 1.5 minutes earlier, this could do a lot more damage. But I think at this point, Protoss should have Storm. Yeah, right. So we just bled a whole bunch of units. So again, no man's land is about 9:30 to about 11:30. Okay, do not be aggressive 9:30, 11:30 unless there's an opening. Okay, stay back home, make a fourth base, get lurkers, control area. Like Zerg should be right here defending, making a fourth base up here, defending, going into hive tech, triple evo chamber. Remember, every Protoss is scared of Zerg, right? If Zerg gets 80 drones and 15 macro hatcheries, all Protoss want to just cry and just go into a fetal position and just shoot themselves in the head. Okay, so get to that point. Get to that point where Protoss wants to cry. Okay, you don't need to attack right here. Okay, especially because we're just bleeding units for virtually nothing. So here, we got lurkers on the way. I mean, I think that the way this game is played is pretty good. I feel like this expansion is a little far. I would like to be getting a closer expansion that you can kind of defend a little bit. Especially because we don't have a Queen's Nest here. So I think when you're playing defensive, you just kind of make lurkers sit around. I mean, oh man, look at this. Okay. So this Zerg here has 121 supply at 13 minutes, which is beautiful. So this Zerg is actually really good. I'm surprised this Zerg said he's 1350 MMR. This looks closer to like 1600 plus, to be honest. Just because, you know, he's got so much macro here, right? So the macro engine of the Zerg is very strong. I just don't like the positioning of this base over there. So I think Zerg is probably not going to die. I think this is okay. I mean, it's not terrible. Like, yeah, I think if you control the area here with lurkers and stuff, it's fine. Maybe like make a sunken colony, like creep your way to like defending the ramp, and you also want a Nidus Canal, but in general, I would be playing kind of defensive, and also you want to be mindful of defending the denying the third base. So I think the third base, you know, you can always just have like 8 lings to deny a third base. Oh, beautiful vision here. I like what I see. I mean, Zerg should be crushing here. I don't know what happens actually. So I think this might be a little bit troublesome. Oh yeah. This is probably the mistake. Yeah, I think just the army movement, to be honest. Oh, yeah. Ouch. Yeah, okay, well. Yeah, I mean, I can't give too much advice. It's just unfortunate. You A-moved all your units, which is fine, like, you know. I think because like it's really hard for Protoss to walk down here, so unless he was actually attacking, you don't need to do that. So maybe just pull back there. From this point on, it really becomes more of a positional game. I would definitely get defilers, get drops, definitely, and start to expand, right? So the more bases you can take than your opponent, the better. It's really hard to engage a Protoss head-on, especially if your unit control is not super great. So I don't like this attack here. Oh no, oh god, what's this? Oh no. Yeah, so it looks like we took a whole bunch of damage there. I think from here, you really just need to defend more. I mean, I think you gotta take bases. I think, yeah, there's nothing critical you're doing wrong. It's just a matter of, the units not being in position, to be honest. So I feel like for the most part, he actually played it pretty well. I mean, like, yeah, I said a few things to help like with the efficiency and optimization, but he still had like 130 supply at 13 minutes, which is pretty good. It's just a matter of managing the late game army. So like, yeah, if you see this, he's never gonna break this. So as long as the Protoss, I mean the Zerg, just kind of sits around and takes 6 bases and stuff, then, you know, then the game kind of comes to you, right? Oh no, yeah, just DT Sayre is just really brutal. So yeah, I mean, I think that's gonna be game. I think, so I think a takeaway in the game, I'm trying to think here, like, you know, I can't give too much advice, like, in terms of, like, hey, just control your units better, you know, just be better. Like, I don't want to give that advice, just because I think it was just based on army. I think one of the critical mistakes is that you expanded towards the side of the Protoss, where the Protoss is going here, and they're very close to you. So it's like you're defending at an angle that the Protoss is already going to have their army there. So they're going to concentrate all their armies here. So it's hard for you to do like a counterattack. So imagine if you expanded like right here, or you expanded here instead, right? Like, first of all, I would have loved to see a fourth base like this here first, right? Because it's close to your base and you can defend it, and there's also a very small choke. So I think the biggest mistake here was just kind of like the positional game, right? Like, you had to reinforce units all the way over here, and it's kind of just like in a really awkward position, right? Whereas if you expanded right here, the Protoss needs to travel this way to kill your base. And as long as you play defensive here, you can actually go for a counterattack this way, right? So you open up more opportunities to counterattack, like here, to that third base, the fourth base, if your expansion's over here, right? Because the Protoss is going to converge right here to bust that base. They're going to converge right in front of your main to bust you. But if you're constantly over here, then you're not giving yourself that many opportunities. Like, yeah, I guess you can counterattack their main base, but then, you know, he probably has like a whole bunch of units queued up. So I think that the critical error here was definitely the direction of the expansion just wasn't optimal, and so that's what kind of caused the loss there. So, okay, well, that is the end of the replays. Let me switch my overlay back so we can start answering some other questions that I have. So give me a second here. All right, so now we are back. Okay, so again, if you guys have questions, I'll take questions. You know, I'm here for about 15 more minutes, then I gotta head out. But we're gonna look at some questions. Okay, we have one from chat here saying, should he have more Zerglings in the map for vision? Definitely. I mean, that's always a thing. You always want vision for, you know, if you have additional Zerglings, spread them everywhere, see exactly what's going on. Vision, 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 vision. Okay. All right, so we got some questions. We have a number of questions here from Quad. He's asking for the 5-hatch Hydra build, early game stage. When I see initial Zealot move out with 3 or 4 Zealots, I tend to overreact, panic, build more Lings than I need to. What is the proper ratio of Lings to Zealots to be able to defend the push, even with bad macro? Is 4-to-1 the right ratio if the number of Zealots grow? Okay. Couple things. Beautiful question. I think every Zerg has trouble dealing with early game Zealots. It's just a matter of like studying when the Protoss actually has Zealots to attack you. Because I think we went over in some of those replays, you can get away with just 2 Lings in the beginning, but once their gateway's done, about 30 seconds after the gateway's done, you want to pump up to 6 Lings, right? The thing that's going to help you destroy early Zealot pushes is not really the number of Lings, but it's Ling speed, okay? So you really want to get Ling speed really fast after you get your lair, because once you have Ling speed, you should be able to crush Zealots, you know, especially if they just try to, you know, throw a few at you to harass. So the number one thing you want to do is have an Overlord or Zergling right outside of their base, right? To know exactly when they're moving out and with how many Zealots, okay? Because if you don't have that Overlord in front of their base, they're going to walk out, they're going to go to some weird angle, they're going to show up at your base with 3 Zealots, and you only have 2 Zerglings, and then you just die, and then you cry yourself to sleep because you don't have any supply, or like your Overlord, you're capped or whatever. So make sure you have vision. Number 1, vision. Number 2, make sure you get your Ling speed as soon as you can, okay? Number 3, the proper ratio with bad macro. Yes, I would say 4-to-1, but I think 3-to-1 is a better number. Also, if you show 6 to 8 Lings with speed, like right as you get speed to the Protoss, they're less likely to attack you, okay? They're more likely psychologically. Think about it psychologically. You know, you're a 1400 Protoss player, you know, you're just scouting around, you lose your scout. Zerg has shown 0 Zerglings, aside from the initial 2. You're more likely to say, oh, let's just A-move these 4 Zealots and try to get as much damage as we can, right? But if you show them psychologically, if you show them 8 Lings in front of their base with speed, they're less likely to move out against that, even if they have 4 Zealots, right? Because all you need against 4 Zealots is 8 plus, I don't know, maybe, you know, 4, 6 more Lings. That's easy to make with speed. So by the time 4 Zealots even get to their base, they're going to do no damage, right? So show them the speed Zealots, Zerglings. Try to, like, run them around in front of their base, like, make them scared. So kind of play that psychological game, okay? Question number 2, mid-game stage. When should you stop making Hydras and tech up to Lurkers, upgrade, and Hive taking another expansion? Beautiful question again. So like that's something that we went through and talked through a lot today. Usually, again, there's like that timing window, right? After you defend that Zealot push, right? Like if Protoss comes to you with like 6 or 7 speed Zealots, you defend it with Hydras. You can counter push with maybe 12 to 15 Hydras, and then you make Protoss go back home. They're scared. They make high cannons. That's a good time to drone. Okay, that's a good time to make 10 plus drones. That's a good time to make your 4th base from 8 minutes to 10 minutes. Okay, 4th base, 8 to 10 minutes. If you can get it 8 minutes, bravo. If you can get it under 10 minutes, that's still fine. Okay. So in general, you want to get your Lurker upgrades right as your Hydra range finishes. So get Lurker aspect ASAP and get some Lurkers ASAP, unless you're going Mutas. You want to, in terms of when to get Hive tech, just write this down. Every Zerg out there, write this down. When your opponent makes his 3rd base, right, or starts to set up, like makes a pylon at the 3rd base or makes a nexus at the 3rd base, put down your Queen's Nest at that exact time. So what does that mean? That means you need to put a Zergling at their 3rd base and know exactly when they're expanding, okay? Again, vision, 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 vision. You make the Queen's Nest when they make their 3rd base, right? Because if they make their 3rd base, you have additional time for you to defend their push. If they don't have a 3rd base, you want to spend all of your money staying on lair tech, making Hydras and Lurkers and not dying to their 2 base push. But if they get a 3 bases, that means they have to spend 400 for Nexus, 5 another, you know, like a couple pylons, like 3 or 4 cannons, and that's about 1,000 minerals, right? So because getting a 3rd base slows their push down, you have the time to take up the Hive. That's a pretty good rule, but obviously if you're doing a really fast Hive build, then you know you could do whatever you want, but that's a general rule. Question number 3. Mid-game stage, is it a good idea to only go for Mutas more than 11 instead of Hydras if Protoss does not have Corsairs or lost all the Corsairs? Is it okay to fight Dragoons with Mutas? Should you get air armor or attack upgrades first? Okay. In general, you never want to get attack for air upgrades. You know, unless you're doing something really weird. And yes, correct. It's a good idea to go Mutas if they lost all their Corsairs or if they didn't go Corsairs at all. There are more advanced Zerg builds where you can mass Muta with Scourges to fight Corsairs head on, but I would say stay away from that just because it's very fickle. It requires a lot of micro. If you mess up your Scourge micro, they'll all die to Corsairs. So it's like I prefer you just go Mutas if you've done damage to their Corsairs, if they don't have Corsairs, etc. I would not fight Dragoons and Mutas. I mean, yeah, they Mutas still do a good job versus Dragoons, like especially if you catch stray Dragoons, but I would not fight them head on. You want to save all their energy to pick up High Templar. Because if you're going Mutas, you should be massing Hydras, and Hydras destroy Dragoon Zealot without Storm. Some more general questions. Templars feel strong in mid-game against Hydras at low MMR. Storm dodging macro at the same time requires high PM. Do you think Ling, Lurker, Turtle, or Muta build would be easier than 5-hatch Hydra? I would say that 5-hatch Hydra is probably a really good build to execute in the beginning, to be very honest with you. I'm not going to say I don't think Turtling or Muta is the way to go because you want to master the 5-hatch Hydra. Also, my suspicion is that if you're fighting Hydras with Zealots and High Templars, you're probably fighting at the wrong points in time, okay? Again, you want to pressure from 7:30 to 8:30, make them build some more, cannons, and then come back home, make Lurkers defend, go to 4 base, okay? That's kind of like the standard cookie cutter play, okay? If you're out on the map with Hydras at 10 minutes, no amount of micro is going to save you, right? Because you're just going to get rolled, you're going to get killed. Another question. This is the last pre-submitted question. Then I'll go to some questions in the chat. I'm not ignoring you guys. How do you adjust your build if you see Protoss not taking their natural and going for one base tech? Okay, so if you see Protoss not taking their natural for one base tech, like for me, there's different ways to play it, but I think they're very vulnerable to 3-hatch mutas, right? If you play like Zerg versus Terran, if you get 9 mutas or even 11 mutas against Protoss, they're only going to have a few Corsairs. They're not going to have +1, right? And mutas take so much map control in the game, because especially at that time, remember, Protoss doesn't have Zealots and Corsairs. They can't do that, right? They either have Zealots or Corsairs. So if you go mutas against one base, then it gives you, it lands you in a very beautiful position. So if you get mutas, make a whole bunch of drones, take a third base, start going Hydras, make 5 hatches, you know, kind of play a similar storyline. That's kind of the way that I would go about it. So just abuse the fact that they don't have a lot of Corsairs, right? You don't have to do damage. You just keep them inside their base, take your third base, go up to 5 hatches. Again, if you can get 15 drones at 3 bases against the 1 base Protoss, like, you'll be golden. Okay, so that's the end of the pre-submitted questions. Let's go here into the chat. I'll take a few questions and I gotta go in about 6 minutes. Let's see. So Mighty Zhu asks how to recognize a Reaver drop rush and how to defend it. Okay, so it's hard to always know, but 1 base Protoss, it's good to throw your Overlord inside their base to scout what they're doing. Even if you lose that first Overlord to like a Dragoon, it's worth the scouting information. If you are playing normal 3-hatch layer into 5-hatch Hydra, you should be getting your Spire really fast, right? So what I do against the fast Reaver push at 1 base is that you just go 3-hatch Muta. Like, just literally do the same build. Again, if remember we talked about getting your gas from 230 to 240. If you're disciplined with your layer timings, you have your Spire out, 99% of the time, your mutas are going to pop out before that Reaver gets to your base. Okay? So, mutas versus Reaver, I think mutas win. If your mutas are late, then that means you need to work on your gas timing, right? And again, if they're going 1 base, mutas are like a catch-all option. There's no counter to mutas if they're going 1 base, okay? 615 mutas. Well, that's not true. Mutas will pop out closer to like 615 or 630 actually. Because remember, this is ZVT gets their gas closer to like 240, 250, and ZVT gets their mutas at the opponent's base at about 7 minutes. ZVP, if you get your gas at 230, you have 10 seconds faster, and your mutas are hatching at your base, which is going to be about 615 to 630, right? Because you don't have to travel to your opponent's base for the Reaver. So a very fast shuttle, yes, I agree with you, bad for you. That's a good point. A very fast Reaver build might get to your base a little bit faster. But I will say also, I'll challenge you on that, right? If you guys can get me Reaver, 1 base Reaver replays, and if they're not top 400 level people, I bet you anything they don't get to your base at 615, 90% of the time, okay? I know there's a build where you can get the Reavers out that fast. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I've seen Bonif do it. I know you can get your Reaver out really fast, but that forces you to cut a lot of things to get there, which makes you vulnerable to lings and stuff. So again, 90% of the time, their shuttle is not going to be at your base at 615. They're actually going to be there past that. So again, good practice for you. Make sure you're disciplined on your gas timings. Go for 3-hatch muta, and you just crush it. Okay, June 19 asks, is there an effective way to practice army movement, like in single player, or is that just one of the things that come with time? Oh, absolutely. I would, June 19, if you, what I do with some of my students, and if you have like a practice partner, save the game at like 9 minutes or whatever, like right before a battle, and then just practice against that person microing, trying to battle, and then after that battle, start over at that save point and just keep practicing army movements. Make sure you have your hotkeys 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4 1 8 2 8 3 8. Like, make sure your units are always in an arc, like a semicircle around their units, right? So there's definitely effective ways to practice on single player, moving, across the map like that. So yes, it comes with time, but I think you should also practice on single player. Okay. Mr. Easy Pat, so I'll just take these next 3 questions and I'll probably head out. So Mr. Easy Pat asks, is there a cost-efficient way to break late-game Protoss when they mass cannon and Reaver defensively? Overrun with units plus Defiler, drop play. Oh, geez. Okay. So the cost efficient way. So if you're talking about a Protoss that has given up and they're just defending at home, and then they're just mind controlling and storming and Reaver and Corsair, like, that's really obnoxious. Like, if you're ahead, what you need to do is you need to drop a whole bunch of, like, you need to load up Overlords with like Ultras and or Hydras and Lings or whatever, and you need to attack simultaneously with Swarm. So you attack in the front, you drop on top of the base, so you can drop on top of the Reavers, and then you bust them that way, okay? If they're just literally sitting there and they're never gonna move out, then get Queens. Get 12 Queens, upgrade Broodlings, Parasite their base, Parasite like an Archon, and then you can see exactly what they're doing. And then if they're sitting in their base doing nothing, then Broodling each of their High Templars until they die. Easy story, right? Okay, let's see. Jake asks, what influences the decision to go for 5 hatch versus 6 hatch Hydra? Is it merely a stylistic choice, or are they counters to particular builds? Does one require more aggression than other? 5 hatch Hydra is the aggressive build. 6 hatch Hydra is more of a turtley build, okay? 6 hatch means that you're going for the far base. 5 hatch means you're going for the closer base, right? So things that influence the decision is depending on the map, right? So if you're on a map where it's good for you to take a far base and you just turtle on 6 hatcheries, then go for it. But usually a lot of Zergs actually make that decision before the game starts, right? They say, okay, today I'm going to go 5 hatch Hydra. Today I'm going to go 6 hatch Hydra, or 6 hatch Turtle, I should say. 5 hatch Hydra is way different. Okay, 6 hatch Hydra is defensive, and then you mass up and then you go crazy later. 5 hatch Hydra, you have that window to pressure Protoss, like I said, where you force them back home, you make them make cannons and stuff. But 5 hatch Hydra, 6 hatch Hydra, you can't do that. Okay, 6 hatch Hydra, you cannot do that until later. Like, that's if you just mass like crazy, but you cannot push them at 7:30 to 8:30 if you go for 6 hatch Hydra, because then you get Hydra in after your 6th hatchery, right? And then your +1 is going to be late, your speed's going to be late, range is going to be late. You don't even have gas, right? So it's hard to even get like Overlord speed and stuff. 6 hatch Hydra, you also go for +1 Carapace on your air. And that's not something you do with 5 hatch Hydra. So they're completely different builds, right? 6 hatch Hydra is not 5 hatch +1 hatchery. 6 hatch is literally 4 base turtle. That's what 6 hatch means, okay? Well, at least in my world. Okay, let's see. Bad for You asks, what about the 5 gate Zealot push? You have to stay Hydra all the time then. The problem is I see the 1 gas mass gate. Because Overlord is only in front, I try to count Forge, upgrade, but after Gate, first I miss timings. Okay, that makes sense. Like, it's hard. Gate first, it tends to be harder because it requires you to adjust. But again, I think if they are going for a really fast +1, either way, like, it should kind of signal to you, hey, this is a mass Zealot push. Against 5 gate Zealot, I actually wouldn't stay on Hydra. I would just stay at home. I'd make 2 sunken colonies with SimCity and just go mutas, right? Like, Hydras are actually not that good against mass Zealots in that situation. So if you feel that they're not going for Corsairs, or sometimes you can like scout the front and see they have like 6 Zealots are like really fast, then you should play a more defensive game. Like, put up a couple sunken colonies. You know, don't do that Hydra pressure that I told you guys to do against 5 gate Zealot, okay? You can Hydra pressure if they've gone Corsairs or if they don't have any ground units. But if they have mass Zealots without any Stargate, sit at home. Don't pressure them. Sit at home, defend, and go mutas, right? What are they going to do against mutas, right? So if you have mutas out and then you have SimCity to make sure you don't get counterattacked, then you can make literally like 20 drones. You can take a 4th base and you can go straight into Lurkers or something, you know? So... or you can mass Hydra. You can do whatever you want, right? So it's like, I think if you play 5 gate Zealot push, you play defensive, put up some mutas, and then you just kind of play it from there. So, all right, guys. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. I did a lot of talking by myself. Next week, I'm going to be featuring Beast Jae-hoon, who is one of the top North American players. Very good Protoss, and a very good Protoss Zerg player as well. So make sure you guys tune in. Next Friday at the same time on the 4th. I'm also doing a very fun IRL keyboard stream with a buddy that I met, aka Teha Types, or Nathan Kim, who is like a keyboard enthusiast. So we're gonna be building a keyboard together at about 4 p.m. PDT on Monday, which is New Year's Eve. And then we're also going to be talking about keyboards in general. We're going to talk about different switches. We're going to talk about what's a good keyboard for gamers, right? And also he's going to bring like 5 to 7 different keyboards of his own. Like these are like top tier boutique keyboards with nice switches and all these mods. And I'm actually going to play some Starcraft with them. Okay, so I'm going to test 5, 6, 7 different keyboards. I might do some Muta Micro, and I'm just going to give my input on like, hey, how do I feel about these switches? You know, are these clicky ones, or are these tactile or linear ones? Do they feel good? Do I recommend them and stuff? So it's going to be a lot of fun. He's going to be here. He's going to drive down to my house, and we're going to do like an IRL stream together. So if you guys want to learn about keyboards, if you guys want to learn about all those things, make sure you guys tune in. It's going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of good information, I think, for gamers in general too. So you guys can also ask questions about stuff, and you know, looking for a new keyboard, that's the stream to go to. Okay. Also, I would definitely appreciate if you guys go to that Matcherino link and use the coupon code ZVT, TVZ, and ZVP. You can use all of them and donate $1.50 free of charge to this event. I'm really happy that Matcherino is supporting this. I also have my own custom shirt that they put on. I mean, I don't even know who's going to buy that, but I'm going to have that shirt next week, and I'll be wearing it. And if you guys want a free shirt and also donate to the prize pool, that's going to be there. So, all right, that's going to be the end of it. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I'm going to head out and eat some dinner with my wife. So everyone enjoy your weekend, and hope you guys all have a great day. So peace out, guys.